everybody, it's Deborah, and in this video I'll be breaking down how much my author website costs. Since everybody says you've got to have one, and since everybody also says you've got to start building your author platform as soon as possible, chances are your author website is going to be one of your first expenses as an author. Unless you're like me and you only started building it when you're waiting for Ingram Spark to process your title setup, or you're waiting for KDP to actually approve the book that you published. David Gaughran, in the additional resources for his book Following, says that on average, a professional author website should run you about $300 in setup costs and about $60 in annual maintenance fees. I disagree. I know you can do it for much cheaper. This is David Gaughran's recommended setup, and this is my setup. Mine is way cheaper for two reasons. First is my web host, Nearly Free Speech, only charges me for the web hosting resources that I actually use. They're pretty much the only web host that I know of who will bill in this way, and it works exactly like a prepaid phone card. You deposit money with them however much you like, and as your website uses up web hosting resources like bandwidth and storage, they deduct those usage costs from your deposited balance. And whenever you start running low, they'll email you a warning and you can just top up your balance again. Their tagline is you can get started for as little as 25 cents, and from what I have seen, that is absolutely true. Here is what I've actually paid in web hosting costs over the last year. And keep in mind that these numbers are for multiple websites. The second reason my website is so much cheaper is I set up my website myself and I did not use a paid WordPress theme. You may have heard that WordPress is hard to set up and hard to customize. That might have been true in the past, but that is not the case today. Right now, more than 2 in 5 websites use WordPress as their content management system. It's so widely used that practically every single web host out there, including the no-frills ones like mine, has a quick, easy, and well-documented way for you to install WordPress and self-host it. In fact, let me put a timer on and show you just how quickly you can set up a new WordPress website, because I have to make one for this YouTube channel anyway. Didn't take long at all. And customizing your website is super easy now with the current WordPress editor. If you're only familiar with an older version of WordPress, which had the classic website editor that looks something like this, then all you need to know about the new editor is it uses the same code base as the editor that you use to edit your pages and your posts, except that capability has been extended so you can edit your whole WordPress site visually, which is very, very powerful. The only thing you need to do is to make sure you choose and install a WordPress theme that is Gutenberg ready. Here is how long it takes to set up a website from brand new install to customized theme. That was pretty quick and dirty. All I did was change the site logo, change the default text to something that's specific to me and my content, and change the site colors. With the full site editor, changing your WordPress theme to look the way you want it to is not the part that takes a long time. What takes forever is figuring out what you want, which I haven't done for this website yet. So let me take you on a tour of a website where I have done all of that work and show you section by section what it looks like live and what it looks like under the hood in the full site editor, and just how easy it is to change things. Most websites have 3 areas. You've got the header, which is up at the top, you've got the main content area in the middle, and you've got the footer, which is at the bottom. In WordPress, they distinguish between two types of content. You've got posts, which are dynamic content, and you've got pages, which are static content. Everything on my website, with the exception of the annotations here, which we'll talk about a little bit later, are all pages. WordPress has two different settings for the homepage. You can either show the latest post, which you normally would select if you had a blog or something. But if you want something more like a landing page, you'll typically set it to a static page, and that's what I've got over here. At first glance, you would assume that the header is just this bit at the top, but actually it is including this little splash cover image as well. The website content, the main page, is actually this one, which is just a static page that I've set over here to one of my pages, and we can have a look at what that looks like by itself. All I've got going on here is the series name, the title of the book, which book in the series it is, the cover, the blurb, and at the bottom I've listed where the book is available, and I've also got this button for a read sample link. And this button at the minute is actually a Amazon preview, which is pretty nifty. So when you click on it, it actually looks like this. Now, I could have set this up as a post in a category of its own called sample chapters. And in fact, that's what I did actually do before I had the look inside. You'll actually see I have an unpublished post, which is called sample chapters. This is what it would look like if it was live on my website. I set it up so that each chapter in the preview would look like a separate page of its own. This is what it looks like in the editor. As you can see, it looks pretty much exactly the same as it does when it's live in this new visual editor, and you can clearly see where the page breaks appear as well. Ultimately though, the reason why I went with the Amazon preview is right now I am exclusive to Amazon, and so the neat thing about the Amazon preview is when you get to the end of the preview chapters, it actually pops up a nice little buy my book dialog box without you having to do anything else. So I'll show you how I put together this header as well. This is WordPress's full site editor, and it's pretty cool. The main thing you'll notice here is you can toggle a navigation for the editor. It looks exactly like the home page when it is live over here, but I've got all of my editing tools around me as well, so I can adjust anything I like. The other thing that you'll notice here is it actually shows you how each page is structured. So the front page, which is the template that is being used by this part of the site, is actually divided into multiple areas. So you can see this area is the header, and you can see the blue outline which shows you which bit of the site you're editing. In the middle, this is the general template for general content, and then down here you can see I've got a footer as well. And the really nice thing about this is I can edit each of these components individually over in templates. So here in the templates, this has got all of the different types of templates that the site uses when it's showing the different things. So right now, front page, which is the part that we were on before, this is what WordPress is using to display the front page. Pretty self-explanatory. But if I say clicked into my about page over here, I wouldn't be on the front page anymore. I would actually just be on a normal page. And so when I'm in here, you can see that it looks a little bit different. I don't have the footer down here. I just have the header over here. And where you can see the difference is I can go over here to the different templates, and here on the single page template, you can see this is why I don't have a footer on my about page. Now, if I changed my mind and wanted to put that in there, it's pretty easy to add. I can click the plus button over here or this plus button over here, and I can basically say I want to put in a footer. And here I can basically click footer. It will add it to the very bottom of the page. I could start with a completely blank footer and create a totally different look to the footer, or I can actually choose an existing footer. So I could actually choose this existing footer, make it look exactly the same as the main page, or I could put something else in there if I wanted to do so. And the other kinds of templates that you've got is you've got the single post templates which set out how individual posts look. So if we go over to the annotations, for example, the annotations are posts on this website, and right now when you click the annotations link, it just takes you to a list of all the posts which fit in the category of annotations. And if I click into one of these annotations, it will actually display just the post itself. And this is going to be displayed using this type of template. And so if I wanted to change how this displays, and so let's say I wanted to make this wide instead of inheriting the narrower column outlook, I can do that. I can just change all of this to be wider and stuff like that. So here we go. Now everything's wide. I can hit save over here. When I go over here, I can actually, let's say I go to the next annotation, and now you can see that the whole annotation is now maximum width and it's taking up all of the page. So if I don't like that, I can come back over here, and it is pretty easy to just go back and change all of this to the way we had it before. And so the other thing to be mindful of is that it will group things into here. So I can put inherit default layout and everything will go back into the way it was. It is now fixed like that. And so if I wanted to change my mind, I could easily do that as well. I could go and change this and add in, say, another column somewhere here, rearrange this and make it so that I've got maybe a bit of a sidebar going on down here. I could try and add in a different type of footer down here. Basically, whatever you want to do, if you can find it in this blocks menu, you can make it look the way you want without having to mess around with any code, which is just pretty awesome. If I just wanted to work on my header, I can go into this header bit and I can play around with the header. So because I don't have a books section at the minute because it doesn't make sense to me, I've only got the one book out, but let's say I get to a point where I'm like, I think I am going to want to add a section for books because, you know, book 2 is out now, so I now have multiple books. I can click this little button here and add like another menu item. All of these menu items right now are done as custom links, and we're just gonna call this books, and I'm gonna keep moving it until I've got it to whereabouts I want it to go. Books. I could add a submenu link here. If I wanted to create a second page, I can just go in, add new, and I think this is how I had it set up. Set my URL here. I will probably call this just supplicant. Publish this. Come back over into my editor. I don't have to go back into the header template part to edit the header. I can just click into anywhere that this is appearing, and I can come here and say, you know what, I want another link here, and I'm going to link to supplicant, which is the page that we just created. And if I hit save, site's updated, and here now under books you can see I've got 2 books listed. Undoing it is just as easy as deleting it. I hit delete, I save, and then I come back over here. If I go back to home, it's gone. It's like it was never there. My footer is pretty basic. I've got the standard sign up for my mailing list form here, and I've also got 2 things that I've stolen from my favorite authors. The first thing is the progress bar, which I've stolen from Brandon Sanderson, and the second thing is this last words written section, which is stolen from Will White. I really like the progress bars on Brandon Sanderson's website because he's so methodical about his process. So when you see the progress bars go up and when you see a new one go up and the old one fill up, it's just a very exciting thing to check as a fan. And I also really liked what Will White does with his last words written bit, because when he's working on a new book, it's just like, why? What happened in the book that the characters that I love are saying this kind of thing? It kind of gets you hyped up for the next book. Since these are kind of things that get updated and don't need to be archived anywhere in particular, I have set these up just as little static bits in a footer. So the progress bar right now is just a bit of custom HTML. And this is just a normal quote block that is available by default from WordPress. My about page is pretty straightforward. It's just got my headshot as well as the same author bio that I use in my book. And now that I'm looking at this, I am thinking that I should probably just change that to be written in first person, because I think I actually did that in my book on the advice of Robert Ryan, because he's like, who are you kidding? Everyone knows you're self-published. So there you go. Everything has just changed and looks exactly like it does in the editor. I can even customize this button. Let's do that. So I can also here take off this color, and then this will just be a transparent on the background. And there you go. This is now updated. The extras page is put together a little differently from the other pages because of the additional bit of content. So initially when I put this page together, it was just a static page, same as all the others. It just had my maps as well as some wallpapers that I had created using the artwork from my paperback covers. But one thing that I really enjoyed on Brandon Sanderson's website, and that I got a lot of value out of as both a fan and as an aspiring writer, was his annotations, which were little author commentaries on each chapter of some of his published books. And so I decided that for lack of better content to post to my author website, I would do some annotations as well. This right now is simply a heading and some paragraphs, normal paragraphs, nothing special here. But the other thing I've done here is I've got the subheading that is just a plain subheading. And then this is a special block called the latest post block. And it just shows you the most recent posts on your blog. At some point, I will need to change this when I start posting other things, maybe once the annotations are finished. And when that happens, I can do what is called a query loop. And query loops are super cool because I can actually go in here and choose some existing patterns that it's got. What I can also do is I can start a blank loop. And so here I could just simply choose title and date here like that. And I can come in here and filter it just for a particular category. So annotations, say for example, and I can tag it with just the annotations for petition. I do have annotations listed here just as a sub menu. I don't really need it per se, but I decided to have it just as like an extra. Right now, this page just displays every single post that exists in the category called annotations. So it is basically a query loop that is running here. The other thing I did decide to include on my website was this report and error page. I borrowed this idea from Brandon Sanderson because whenever he releases a book, he's actually got an official report a typo thread that is posted in his official fan community forums. I think that's a great idea in concept, but I really am not a fan of the execution because forums are not really designed to track this stuff. I had a couple of things I wanted to achieve here on this particular page. One was I wanted people to be able to check whether or not the error they're about to report has already been reported by somebody else, and if so, what the status of that reported error was. If you think you've identified an error, you'll probably Google my author name and you'll find my author website, and hopefully if there is a big huge report and error menu item up here, you'll probably click that, and then if the first thing you see is this Kanban view of what errors have already been reported and investigated, then hopefully you'll either realize that you need to update your Kindle copy, or you'll realize that I already know about it and it's been fixed. Or if it actually isn't something that is already up here, then you can actually come along down here, click this button to report an error, and it opens up a type form survey. And they can fill out this form and they can tell me which version they were reading, which is kind of important because I have to update it in different places. And so let's say this person has the paperback, and then I've also asked them to categorize the error into one of these 4 categories. So let's say they've spotted a formatting issue which does actually exist in the paperback if the print-on-demand quality has not been great. And I can just type a description here. And once I do that, I can submit. And if I go to this page, which is the same report and errors page, you can now see this new item has now appeared. Eventually, what I will do, like maybe once a month or something like that, is I'll log into Airtable and I will go through and fix any typos and errors and things like that I find. And there is a little spot on each of these items for me to type a resolution, and therefore you can see exactly when I updated that error. And if it's not an error, I can actually put a little comment there and say, hey, thanks for reporting it. It's not an error. This is intentional. Read and find out, something like that. Those are all of the pages you can get to via the navigation menu. Behind the scenes, there are a few extra pages which aren't linked in the navigation menu, and that is deliberate. The first one is this Join the Resonance Guild page. To get to this page, they have to actually directly type the URL from the back of the book, and all they can see here is the sign up form for my mailing list. Another hidden page here is this one, which contains the reader magnet. The only way they can get to this page, again, is by signing up to my mailing list, because the URL for this page is not linked to anywhere in the navigation. And since they could be signing up from this mailing list form, or they could be signing up from the link in the back of the book, I don't know if they've necessarily read the book or not. I have this call to action here for them to read the sample chapters, which will then hopefully encourage them to buy the book if they haven't bought the book yet. So contrary to David Gaughran's recommendation, I'm going to say that in 2022, if you have $300 to spend on a website, don't. Spend that money on getting a good cover and a good editor, and take your time to tweak your website slowly to get it to look the way you want it to. And if you're still not sure where to start, then you should check out this video where I break down how websites work in general and all of the things you should consider before you start setting up your author website.